The doorbell chimed just as I was sliding the lasagna into the oven. Perfect timing. Dylan had finally settled into his afternoon nap, and I'd planned to tackle the mountain of laundry waiting upstairs. I wiped my hands on my apron and headed for the door, expecting the usual package delivery. Instead, I found myself face to face with a woman who looked vaguely familiar. Tall, impeccably dressed in a cream blazer, her dark hair falling in perfect waves. The kind of woman who belongs on a magazine cover, not on my front porch on a Tuesday afternoon. Michelle Thompson? Her voice was steady, confident. I'm Sophie Grant. We need to talk about Ryan. My stomach dropped. I knew that name. I'd seen it pop up on Ryan's phone a few times, always dismissed with a quick, just a client when I'd asked. The way she said my husband's name, though. There was an intimacy there that made my fingers curl against the doorframe. I'm sorry, but Ryan's at work, I said, moving to close the door. You can reach him at the office. I know exactly where Ryan is. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen a few times. He's at the Riverside Hotel, room 412, same as every Tuesday afternoon for the past 8 months. The world tilted sideways. I gripped the doorframe harder, my knuckles turning white. I think you should leave. Look. She held up her phone. The screen showed Ryan, my Ryan, kissing this woman in what looked like a restaurant. Another swipe. Them on a beach, his arm around her waist. Another, in bed, his face peaceful in sleep, the same expression I'd watched countless mornings. Stop. The word came out like a plea. I'm not here to hurt you, Sophie said, lowering her phone. I thought I was the only one until last week. Then I found out about you, about Dylan, about the mortgage payments he's been making on my condo while telling me he was separated. The smell of burning cheese suddenly filled the air. The lasagna. I turned mechanically toward the kitchen, Sophie following me inside uninvited. I pulled out the slightly blackened dish, set it on the counter. The mundane action felt surreal, like I was moving through water. Why are you here? I asked, still staring at the ruined dinner. Why tell me? Because we both deserve better than his lies. She placed a manila envelope on my counter. Here's everything. Photos, messages, bank statements, hotel receipts. Use it however you want. A cry from upstairs made us both freeze. Dylan, awake from his nap? The sound snapped me back to reality, reminded me who I was, who I needed to be. Get out, I said, my voice finding its strength. Now, Sophie nodded, almost sympathetic. One more thing. He's planning to leave you next month. Already has the papers drawn up. I thought you should know. She walked out, heels clicking against my hardwood floors. The front door closed with a soft click that echoed through my suddenly hollow home. Upstairs, Dylan called again. Mama. I looked at the envelope on my counter, then at my wedding photo hanging on the wall. Ryan's smile, the one I'd fallen in love with, now seemed more like a smirk. 8 years of marriage reduced to a manila envelope of betrayals. Dylan's cries grew more insistent. I touched my wedding ring, twisted it once, then pulled it off. It made a small, final sound as it hit the counter. Coming, baby. I called upstairs, my mind already racing with what needed to be done. Ryan would be home in 3 hours, expecting his perfect family, his perfect life. He had no idea what was waiting for him. I spent 3 hours memorizing every detail in that manila envelope, arranging the evidence of my shattered life on our bedroom floor while Dylan played with his blocks nearby. Each photo, each receipt, each loving message between my husband and his other life felt like another nail in a coffin I hadn't known I was lying in. When Ryan's key turned in the front door at exactly 6:30, I had everything back in the envelope, tucked safely in my mother's house across town. Dylan squealed, "Dada," from his playpen, and I watched Ryan scoop him up, plant kisses on his chubby cheeks, perform his role of devoted father perfectly. Something smells good, he said, walking into the kitchen where I stood at the counter, chopping vegetables with mechanical precision. New recipe? How was the Riverside Hotel? I kept chopping, not looking up. Room 412 meet your standards? The silence that followed was absolute. Even Dylan, still in Ryan's arms, seemed to sense the shift in the air. When I finally looked up, Ryan's face had that careful blank expression I'd seen him use with difficult clients. "Michelle, what are you talking about?" "Don't." The knife came down harder than necessary, splitting a carrot in two. Sophie Grant was here today. Interesting woman. Great taste in blazers, even better taste in evidence. Ryan set Dylan down, who immediately toddled off to his toys. "Whatever she told you." 8 months. My voice cracked slightly. "Every Tuesday afternoon. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Or did you just not care enough to hide it better?" "It's not what you think." He stepped closer, reaching for my hand. I pointed the knife at him and he froze. "Baby, please, let me explain." "Explain what? The condo you're paying for? The divorce papers you've already drawn up?" Each word felt like glass in my throat. "Or maybe explain how you've been playing house with her son while ours naps every afternoon?" His face changed then, something darker replacing the careful mask. "You went through my things?" I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign. "No, Ryan. Sophie did that for me. Turns out she didn't appreciate finding out about your wife and son any more than I appreciated learning about your girlfriend and her kid. This is exactly why I—" He caught himself, but not before I saw it. That flash of blame in his eyes. "Why you what? Why you decided to throw away 8 years of marriage? Why you've been lying to my face every single day?" I set the knife down before the temptation to use it became too strong. "Go ahead. Finish that sentence." Instead, he pulled out his phone, turning away slightly. I caught a glimpse of Sophie's name on the screen before he walked into the living room, speaking in low, urgent tones. I followed, fury building with each step. "Are you seriously calling her right now?" He held up a finger, the universal wait gesture he used to silence difficult clients. That's when something in me snapped. I grabbed his phone and hurled it against the wall. It shattered, pieces of screen scattering across our perfect hardwood floors. Dylan started crying from his playpen, but for once I didn't immediately run to comfort him. "Jesus Christ, Michelle." Ryan stared at his broken phone, then at me like I was a stranger. "Have you lost your mind?" "No," I said, eerily calm now. "But I found something better. Clarity." I walked to Dylan's playpen, lifted him out, and headed for the stairs. "We're staying at my mother's tonight. Don't bother calling." "Oh wait, you can't." "Michelle, stop. We need to talk about this like adults." I turned on the stairs, Dylan's tear-stained face pressed against my neck. "Adults? Like how you've been adulting with Sophie every Tuesday? Or how adult it was to plan your escape while playing happy family?" "I never meant—" "Save it for your girlfriend." I continued up the stairs. "Or better yet, save it for your lawyer, because that's who you'll be talking to from now on." His voice followed me up. "You're being hysterical. This isn't you." "You're right," I called back, throwing some of Dylan's things into a bag. "The old me would have believed whatever lie you're about to tell. But that Michelle? She died today in room 412. Lily's office always smelled like leather and coffee, a combination that usually calmed me. Not today. I sat across from her desk, Dylan asleep in his stroller beside me while she scrolled through Ryan's financial records on her computer screen. "This is worse than we thought," she said, turning the monitor toward me. "He's been moving money around for months. Small amounts at first, then larger transfers starting about 6 months ago." I leaned forward, the numbers swimming before my eyes. "How much?" "Nearly $200,000. Lily's voice hardened. "All going to an account under Sophie Grant's name." The room tilted slightly. "That was our safety net. Our future. Dylan's college fund. He told me the market was down, that our investments needed time to recover." "The market's fine. Your husband's morality, however." Lily started typing rapidly. "There's more. The condo he bought for her? It's in both their names." A knock at the door made us both jump. Mark Davis, Ryan's best friend, stepped in without waiting for an answer. The sight of him in his expensive suit, with that familiar apologetic smile made my stomach turn. "Michelle," he said, closing the door behind him. "Ryan's worried sick. He's been trying to reach you for days." "I'm in a private meeting with my lawyer," I said, gesturing to Lily. "You can tell Ryan he's not the bad guy here." Mark held up his hands. "Look, Sophie's been causing problems for months. Ryan was trying to handle it quietly, protect everyone involved." Lily stood up slowly. "Mark, as Michelle's legal counsel, I advise you to leave." "Did Ryan send you to spy on me?" The question came out sharp enough to make Dylan stir in his sleep. "Or did you volunteer?" Mark's expression shifted, something calculating replacing the concern. "You should know there are things about Sophie that would change how you see this situation." "Like what? That she has a son? That Ryan's been playing daddy to him while stealing from his own child's future?" I pulled out my phone, showed him the photo of Ryan with Sophie and her son at what looked like a school event. "Or maybe you mean how he's been building a whole second life while destroying this one. That money was to keep her quiet," Mark blurted. "She was threatening to go public, ruin his career. Ryan was protecting you." Lily's laugh was cold. "By buying her a condo and setting up joint accounts? That's an interesting definition of protection." "You don't understand." "No, you don't understand." I stood up, my voice steady despite the rage burning through me. "Ryan wasn't protecting anyone but himself. And you've been helping him, haven't you? Covering for him at those business dinners, lying to my face every time I called looking for him?" Mark's silence was answer enough. "Get out," Lily said, moving between us. "Before I call security." After he left, I collapsed back into the chair, my hands shaking. Ryan's already spinning his version of events. Let him. Lily returned to her computer. "Because while he's doing that, we're going to follow the money. Every transfer, every purchase, every lie he tried to hide." She paused, looking at me carefully. "But Michelle, once we start this, there's no going back. Ryan won't just lose his reputation. He could face serious legal consequences." I looked at Dylan, peaceful in his sleep, unaware that his world was crumbling. Then I thought of Tom, Sophie's son, another innocent caught in Ryan's web of lies. The fury that had been building since Sophie's visit crystallized into something colder, more focused. "Ryan's been playing both sides, thinking he's too smart to get caught," I said, turning back to Lily. "He used our money to build his perfect escape, convinced everyone to help keep his secrets. Now it's my turn. What are you thinking?" I pulled out the manila envelope Sophie had given me, along with a USB drive I'd found hidden in Ryan's office. "I'm thinking it's time to show him what it feels like when everything you've built comes crashing down." Lily smiled, a predatory gleam in her eye. "Then let's get to work." My mother found me in her guest bathroom at 3 a.m, scrubbing the already spotless tiles with violent determination. She didn't say anything, just sat on the edge of the tub and waited. The only sounds were Dylan's soft breathing through the baby monitor and the harsh scratch of the brush against ceramic. "I keep thinking about all the times I cleaned our house while he was with her," I finally said, my knuckles white around the brush handle. "Every surface I made perfect for him to come home to." "Michelle." Mom's voice was gentle, but I heard the steel underneath. "Put down the brush." I did, but my hands kept moving, searching for something to fix, to control. "Did you know Ryan called the school today? Tried to convince them to let him substitute teach your old literature class?" "What?" The steel in her voice became razor sharp. "He's trying to preserve his image, the caring husband, the devoted father, the pillar of the community." I laughed, the sound echoing harshly off the bathroom walls. "He even volunteered to coach Little League. That manipulative little—" A knock at the front door cut her off. We both froze, listening. It was followed by another knock, more insistent. "Stay here," Mom said, but I was already moving. Through the peephole, I saw Sophie, looking nothing like the polished woman who'd appeared on my doorstep days ago. Her mascara was smeared, her perfect hair disheveled. I opened the door. "It's 3 a.m. Ryan's engaged." The words tumbled out of her. "To neither of us. Her name's Amanda." They've been together for months. The world didn't tilt this time. It shattered. What? Sophie thrust her phone at me. On the screen was a private Instagram account showing Ryan at what looked like an intimate dinner. His arm was around a redhead I'd never seen before. The caption read, "Finally said yes to forever. Jiri's engaged. My forever." The post is from 2 hours ago, Sophie said. I only found it because her best friend follows my yoga studio's account. My mother appeared beside me, taking in Sophie's desperate state. Come inside before the neighbors start talking. In the kitchen, Sophie's hands shook as she pulled up more photos. Ryan and Amanda at Christmas. Ryan and Amanda on vacation. Ryan and Amanda looking at houses. He told me you were the obstacle, Sophie said, her voice breaking. That once the divorce was final, we could be together properly. But he told her I was just a client who got obsessed with him. And you... She looked at me. You don't even exist in her world. How long? The question felt like ground glass in my throat. The timestamps on these photos. Sophie scrolled through her phone. At least a year, before he even met me. My mother's hand found mine under the table, squeezing hard. You said she's looking at houses with him? Sophie nodded. In the same development where he bought my condo, using the same real estate company, suddenly everything clicked into place. The missing money, the elaborate lies, the careful compartmentalization of his various lives. It wasn't just about affairs or escape plans. He's been running a scam, I said, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. The development, the real estate company. He's been using his relationships to sell properties, hasn't he? Sophie's eyes widened. The investment opportunity he kept talking about. He said if I just put in a little more money. How much? Mom asked sharply. Everything I had. Sophie's voice was barely a whisper. My savings, my son's college fund, even a second mortgage on my parents' house. The baby monitor crackled with Dylan's soft whimpers. The sound crystallized everything. My rage, my pain, my purpose. We need to call Lily, I said, standing up. Right now. Why? Sophie asked. Because this isn't about affairs anymore. It's about fraud. I looked at the photos again, at Ryan's practice smile, the same one he'd used on all of us. And we're going to make sure he never does this to anyone else. The sun was rising by the time we finished making our plans, painting the kitchen in shades of gold that felt like a promise. Or maybe a warning. The restaurant buzzed with Friday night energy as I watched Ryan charm his way through another business dinner. He hadn't noticed me yet, sitting alone at the corner table, nursing a glass of wine I hadn't touched. His arm was around Amanda, the ring on her finger catching the light as she laughed at something he'd said. 3 other couples sat at their table. All potential buyers for the new development, according to Lily's investigation. All about to invest their life savings in Ryan's elaborate house of cards. My phone vibrated. Sophie. We're in position. Mark just arrived at the office. I checked my watch. Right on schedule. While Ryan played his role here, Lily and a forensic accountant were meeting Mark at the real estate office, armed with enough evidence to make him choose between loyalty to Ryan and saving his own skin. Ready? Another text, this time from Mom, who was watching Dylan. I typed back, yes. Standing up, I smoothed down my black dress, the one Ryan had always loved, and walked toward their table. Amanda saw me first, her smile faltering as she tried to place my face. Then Ryan looked up, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw real fear in his eyes. Ryan, darling, I said, loud enough to carry. Aren't you going to introduce me to your fiancé? The table went silent. Amanda's hand flew to her throat, touching the necklace I recognized from our 10th anniversary. Ryan, who is this? Nobody, he said quickly, standing. Michelle, let's talk outside. I'm his wife, I said, pulling out my phone. Well, current wife, though I suppose that makes me the nobody in this scenario. I turned to the other couples. I assume you're all here about investing in Riverside Heights? Ryan grabbed my arm. Stop this, now. I shook him off. You might want to check the news first. It seems there are some irregularities with the development company. The FBI is particularly interested in the pattern of investment fraud. She's lying, Ryan said, but the couples were already pulling out their phones. This is just a domestic dispute. My phone rang. I answered on speaker. Yes, Lily? It's done. My lawyer's voice rang clear. Mark Davis just finished his statement to the investigators. They're executing the search warrant now. The color drained from Ryan's face. Amanda stood up, backing away from him. Ryan, what's happening? Would you like to tell her? I asked him. Or should I? About Sophie, perhaps? Or the other women? The houses you sold them with money that never went to the development? I turned to Amanda. Check your investment account. The one he convinced you to create for your future together. I'm betting it's empty. She fumbled with her phone, hands shaking. The horror dawning on her face told me everything. You're ruining everything, Ryan hissed, his charm cracking to reveal something ugly underneath. No, you did that yourself. I'm just making sure you can't ruin anyone else's life. The restaurant manager appeared, drawn by the commotion. Behind him, I spotted two men in suits entering, right on schedule. Mr. Thompson? One called out. FBI, we need you to come with us. Ryan's eyes darted around like a trapped animal's. For a moment, I thought he might run. Instead, he straightened his tie, that familiar mask sliding back into place. This is all a misunderstanding, he said smoothly. I can explain everything. As they led him away, Amanda threw her ring at him, the diamond bouncing off his perfectly pressed shirt. The other couples huddled together, shock and anger mixing on their faces as they realized how close they'd come to losing everything. I sat back down at my corner table, finally taking a sip of my wine. My phone lit up with a message from Sophie. Is it done? Yes, I typed back. He'll never hurt anyone again. The wine tasted bitter, victory mixing with something else. Not regret exactly, but a hollow feeling where satisfaction should have been. I thought it would feel different watching him fall. Instead, I just felt tired. My phone buzzed again. Mom had sent a photo of Dylan sleeping, clutching his favorite stuffed elephant. That's when the tears finally came. Not for Ryan, or the life we'd lost, but for the future we'd saved. The courthouse hallway felt endless as I walked toward the hearing room, my heels echoing against marble floors. Behind me, I heard the whispers, felt the stares. Ryan's arrest had made headlines, and now everyone knew the story, or thought they did. I pushed open the heavy doors, and there he sat, wearing an orange jumpsuit instead of his usual designer suit. The sight should have been satisfying. Instead, it made my stomach turn. Mrs. Thompson, his lawyer called out, intercepting me before I could sit down. A moment. In the corner, Ryan watched us with that familiar, calculating expression. I'd seen that look before, when negotiating house prices, when convincing clients to invest, when promising Sophie and Amanda their perfect futures. We have a proposition, the lawyer said quietly, one that could benefit everyone. Everyone meaning Ryan? Meaning Dylan. He paused, letting that sink in. My client is willing to sign over all his assets, make a full confession, if you agree to supervised visitation. The room tilted slightly. He's using our son as a bargaining chip? He's trying to make things right. A commotion at the door drew our attention. Sophie burst in, her face pale. Michelle, wait. There's something you need to know. The lawyer tried to intervene, but Sophie pushed past him. He's done it before. In Seattle, 5 years ago. Different names, different development, same scheme. Her voice cracked. A woman killed herself when she lost everything. Her daughter was Tom's age. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. I looked at Ryan, searching for any sign of remorse, any crack in his perfect mask. He just smiled. That same charming smile that had convinced me, convinced all of us, that he was something he never was. Your Honor, his lawyer started, but I cut him off. No deals. My voice sounded strange, distant. No visitation, no mercy. Ryan finally spoke, his voice carrying across the room. You're going to tell our son his father's in prison? That's your idea of protecting him? Better than letting him grow up thinking lies are love. I turned to the judge. I'd like to make a statement. But before I could speak, Mark Davis burst into the courtroom, clutching papers. Stop. Everything he told you about Seattle was a lie. There's more, so much more. The next hour passed in a blur of revelations. 3 cities, dozens of victims, millions stolen. With each new detail, I felt myself shrinking, drowning in the magnitude of what Ryan had done, what I had failed to see. Later, in the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face, trying to wash away the horror of it all. The door opened and Amanda stepped in, her engagement ring gone. I thought I knew him, she said quietly. We all did. That was his gift. My reflection looked haunted, hollow, making us see what we wanted to see. The investigators found something else, Amanda said. In his private email, plans for after the arrest, for Dylan. My heart stopped. What plans? He has money hidden overseas, and people willing to... She couldn't finish. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Ryan wasn't just trying to negotiate visitation. He was setting up an escape plan, with our son as leverage. I fumbled for my phone, called my mother. No answer. Called home. Nothing. Dylan's at daycare, Amanda said quickly, seeing my panic. I checked before coming here. He's safe. But for how long? The question echoed in my head as I ran from the courthouse, my carefully planned revenge crumbling around me. I'd thought exposing Ryan would end this. Instead, I'd just given him nothing left to lose. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have taken the deal. In that moment, standing in the courthouse parking lot with my world collapsing again, I realized the true cost of revenge. It wasn't just about exposing lies or seeking justice anymore. It was about protecting what mattered most, and I just made that infinitely harder. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. And this time, the stakes were higher than I'd ever imagined. The safe house felt like a cage, even with the FBI agents posted outside. Dylan slept in the next room while I paced, watching shadows move across unfamiliar walls. 3 days since Ryan's threat. 3 days of protective custody, waiting for the other shoe to drop. My phone buzzed. A text from an encrypted number Lily had set up. Movement on the offshore accounts. Large withdrawal in Singapore. Another buzz. Security breach at the courthouse. Ryan's gone. The bedroom door creaked. I spun around, heart racing, but it was just Sophie, her face ghost white in the darkness. They found Mark, she whispered, in his car. He's alive, but... A crash from Dylan's room cut her off. Before I could move, the window exploded inward and 2 figures in black burst through. I lunged for Dylan's room, but strong arms caught me from behind. Hello, Michelle? Ryan's voice, smooth as ever. Miss me? The overhead lights flickered on. Ryan stood in the doorway wearing a guard's uniform, his perfect mask finally cracked around the edges. 2 men held Sophie against the wall. Through the broken window, I saw the FBI agent slumped on the ground. Dylan stays asleep, Ryan said quietly. Or this gets messy. How did you... Money talks, especially to underpaid federal agents. He stepped closer, that familiar smile twisting into something cruel. You should have taken the deal. You're not taking him. My voice stayed steady, even as fear clawed at my throat. Actually, I am. But first... He pulled out a stack of papers. You're going to sign these. Full custody, no visitation, no contact. Your choice whether Dylan grows up thinking his mother abandoned him or died trying to stop me. Sophie made a small sound, and one of the men pressed harder against her throat. You really think you can disappear? I asked, playing for time. Every law enforcement agency in the country? We'll be chasing shadows while we're living comfortably in a country with no extradition treaty. Ryan's eyes flickered to Dylan's room. He'll forget you eventually. Children are adaptable. Something inside me shifted, a clarity cutting through the fear. I I saw Ryan clearly for the first time. Not the charming mask or the calculating monster, but something smaller, desperate. "You know what your mistake was?" I asked, taking a step forward. "Not the affairs or the fraud or even the threats. It was thinking you knew me." His smile faltered slightly. The old Michelle would have been paralyzed by fear right now, would have signed anything to keep the peace. "Another step. But you created this version of me, the one who learned to play the long game." A sound outside, car doors closing. Ryan's head turned slightly. "You taught me how to set a trap," I continued. "How to make someone so focused on one threat they miss the real danger." Shouts erupted outside. Ryan's men moved toward the window, dragging Sophie with them. "The offshore accounts?" I smiled. "A trail we wanted you to follow. The courthouse breach? Staged. Even the FBI agents outside were actors. The real team's been waiting for my signal since you walked in." The door burst open. Real agents poured in, weapons raised. Ryan lunged for Dylan's room, but I was already there, blocking his path. "You're right about one thing," I said as they took him down. "Children are adaptable. Dylan will forget you. And that's the best gift I could give him." Later, as dawn broke over the safe house, I sat with Sophie while the FBI processed the scene. "How did you know he'd come himself?" she asked. "Because he couldn't stand that someone else had outplayed him. His ego wouldn't let him trust anyone else to fix it." Dylan stirred in his sleep, clutching his stuffed elephant. I touched the small transmitter hidden inside it, the one that had been broadcasting everything to the FBI since Ryan's first threat. "The thing about revenge," I said quietly, "is knowing when to let it go. Sometimes the best victory is just making sure they can never hurt anyone again." Sophie nodded, understanding in her eyes. "What now?" I watched the sun rise, feeling lighter than I had in months. "Now we rebuild, but this time on our terms, not his." The envelope arrived on a crisp autumn morning, just as Dylan was mastering his first complete sentence. I recognized Sophie's handwriting immediately, though I hadn't heard from her since the trial. "Mama, look." Dylan pointed at a falling leaf while I opened the letter, his other hand gripping the playground railing. The park had become our sanctuary, a place where the whispers and stares couldn't reach us. Sophie's words blurred on the page. "I'm moving to Seattle with Tom. Starting over where Ryan first began his schemes feels right somehow, like closing a circle. The victims' families there. They deserve to know the truth, to heal." A child's laughter drew my attention. Tom was pushing Dylan on the swing, both boys oblivious to the weight of their shared history. Sophie had brought him for one last play date before their move. "They'll forget," Sophie said, appearing beside me. "That's what everyone keeps telling me, that Tom will forget Ryan, the promises, the pain." "But we won't," I replied, watching our sons play. "No." She handed me a newspaper clipping, Ryan's sentencing. 20 years, no possibility of early release. I heard he tried to charm the judge at the end. Some speech about redemption. Old habits. I folded the clipping without reading it. Did it work? The judge called him a predator in a prince's clothing. Sophie smiled slightly. Your testimony sealed it. The way you described his methods, his manipulation, it helped the other victims come forward. Dylan ran over, leaves stuck in his curls. Mama, swing. As I pushed him higher, I thought about Ryan's last words to me in court. You'll never truly be free of me. He'd meant it as a threat, but watching Dylan laugh, fearless and pure, I realized Ryan had given me something he never intended. Strength I never knew I had. The support group is helping, Sophie said when I returned. The other families, they understand. No judgment. Just healing. Is that why you're really going to Seattle? She nodded. They need someone who understands both sides, victim and accomplice. Her voice caught. I have to make it right. Tom called out to her, proud of something he'd found. The way she looked at him, fierce love mixed with lingering guilt, mirrored what I felt every time Dylan asked about his father. We protected them in the end, I said. That's what matters. You protected everyone. I just wish. She trailed off, watching Tom. I wish I'd been stronger sooner. I thought about the day Sophie first appeared on my doorstep, how that moment had shattered my world and ultimately rebuilt it stronger. We were strong exactly when we needed to be. Later, after they'd left for their new life across the country, I found a second letter in the envelope. This one was addressed to Dylan, marked, "For when he's older." I didn't read it. Instead, I placed it in the box where I kept the important things: Dylan's first drawing, the key to our new house, the business card for my recently launched consulting firm. Not to preserve the pain, but to remember the strength that grew from it. Dylan tugged at my sleeve, ready for his afternoon nap. As I carried him home, he pointed at a bird soaring overhead. "Free," he said, one of his new favorite words. I held him closer, thinking about Ryan's threat of never being free. He'd been wrong about that, just like he'd been wrong about so many things. Freedom wasn't about forgetting the past or even forgiving it. It was about choosing your own path forward, even when that path was harder than the comfortable lies we tell ourselves. "Yes, baby," I whispered to Dylan as he drifted off to sleep. "We're free." And for the first time since this all began, I truly believed it.